Value is a funny thing when you're buying wine. I'm a wine freak. I drink a lot of wine. I have drank a lot of wine, so I have a little bit of experience with it. I know what I like and what I don't like. I know, generally, I think I do what's good and what isn't good from a more classic perspective. Or I hope I do. Don't always agree with everybody, but such is the way of wine. But there are some standards. And the only way you get there is by drinking a lot of wine. The only way to drink a lot of wine when you're in my tax bracket is to pursue value. What I do is, especially, I go looking on the secondary market. I go looking for wines that I think are undervalued, and then I try to scoop them up at the best price possible, and hopefully they'll outperform that price point. Today I'm doing 3 wines. I'm doing this Meursault Boillot. This bottle is a 2004. 2004 is not the best vintage, but it's 20 years. So Sommelier Boillot Meursault Village with age. Is it oxidized or is it raring to go? Stick around, we'll find out. Something I've never tried before is Chanterêves Aloxe-Corton Premier Cru. Aloxe-Corton I don't drink a lot of. In the past, when I have had them, I haven't found them to be particularly, it's nothing I need to revisit. This is a Premier Cru. Interesting. Chanterêves, who I've just come across recently in my wine travels. Interesting. Price point was quite reasonable. Actually, it's a 2020, so it has a couple of years on it. I'm excited. And the third bottle is a Vosne-Romanée Beaux-Monts. And, here's where this value question becomes a little bit more interesting. Vosne-Romanée, you can't get Vosne-Romanée for a decent price. Vosne-Romanée Premier Cru, you can't definitely not get for a decent price. It depends what your budget is, but I think they're overpriced often. This is a Beaux-Monts, a Premier Cru, a Premier Cru with a lot of promise. I don't know this producer. Bruno Desaunay-Bissey. It's a 2016, so it's had 8 years. So it should be at least kind of developing into something, into some secondary notes and things like that. It should be a Vosne-Romanée in a classic style, according to the interwebs on this producer. What are we waiting for? Hey, let's get it rolling. All right, what do we got in the glass? Look at that color. I'm telling you right now, this color, maybe it looks a little bit golden on camera, but it isn't. It's actually quite sharp, quite bright. Doesn't have that heavy golden laden color that I thought it might have. This is a wine that's 20 years old, right? It's 20 years old, and it's a Village Meursault, and it's from this brilliant house on Henri Boillot. This wine is absolutely fabulous. The 2004 vintage was not a particularly good vintage. I mean, there was a lot of problems for a lot of people. I think white did a little bit better than red in general, but 20 years for a Village Meursault, and it's singing, it's still very mineral. More hazelnut now. I think there's a lot of hazelnut and beeswax, even a little bit of beeswax, a lot of floral elements, a little bit of saffron. Even curry, you could argue for. I think because there's that strange exotica that happens in nice Meursault. It's strangely a little bit more mineral than I might expect, and at the same time, 04 was a bit of a lean year, wasn't it? No hint of oxidization. Beautiful citrus effect here, with that very cooling mineral effect as well. Very high register on the citrus, and then that sort of exotica. This is a true pleasure to drink. I mean, this is one of those great surprises that you get from Burgundy, and it's part of what I really enjoy as I suppose a hunter, is going on a hunt for these types of things. I don't understand why people sell them. I'm glad they do. I'll buy them. This is going to make for a great afternoon right here. I'm looking forward to it. Moving right along. What do we got in the glass? It's a bit almost tea colored. It's still ruby, but ruby tea colored, a little bit murky. Very strange nose, actually. Almost eucalyptus. A bit high toned, black cherry. Wow. I opened this yesterday, and it was all cherry. It was all sweet black cherry, and a strange tannin-y presence that I wasn't super fond of. That tannin presence is still here today. That fruit has pulled back a little bit in that tea that I talked about from the beginning. I'm not sure it's a black tea, really. I think it's maybe black tea with some orange sort of blossoms in it or something like that. That's kind of a little bit on the nose, much more on the palate. I'm enjoying it a little bit better today than I did yesterday. There was a bit of bread to this as well. Kind of delicious. My thing about this is that it's almost compartmentalized, in the way that Italian wines can be sometimes. The fruit is one thing and then the tannin is another thing. I find that here. And then there's an herbal bitterness that I'm not super fond of. It's a matter of taste for sure, because I know that a lot of people would be attracted to this type of herbal presence. Not me. It's kind of chartreusey, that bitterness, which is all fine and dandy, but it makes it's a very different profile. It's a wine. It's not something I didn't expect. I'm not crazy about orange flavors in wine normally, and then that kind of high-pitched tea, a little touch of licorice as well, and there is some complexity, so you can't argue about that. It's a 2020. 2020 as well as a vintage can be a little bit severe. I'm generalizing about Burgundy now in 2020. I think I've had enough 2020s to sort of say it's not a particularly charming vintage. For instance, this is a Premier Cru. Nah, I don't think so. I think that Meursault Village I had before was more Premier Cru than this is Premier Cru in a way, in a very clear way. I think there's a lot of other wines that are on the Village level that outperform this as a Premier Cru. I have my doubts, and I'm a bit curious. I think it's probably honest to the style of the wine, because Chanterêves is pretty minimum intervention type of stuff. At the same time, if that's what these are, then they're probably not my cup of tea. See what I did there? Full circle. Let's move on. What do we got in the glass? Oh, what do we got in the glass? Oh, this has got a muskiness to it, an animal note. And then some strawberry, very, very deep strawberry. And a bit of licorice. Yeah, it has more poise, it has more polish. Still pretty tannic. A little bit of a battle between the fruit and the tannin here. Maybe not the most balanced line. That animal note kind of is a bit telltale of where it's from. It's a bit furry in that sense. And then some good cinnamon, proper cinnamon. I feel like there's more wine behind this than has been brought out by whoever made it. It feels a bit simple. It doesn't have the nobility of a Beaux-Monts. It's missing some push, definitely missing some drive on the finish. It is a tannin-driven or tannin-drifting finish. It's not even driven, I would say. Medium-ish in length. So that's number one. I'm not crazy about that. In a Premier Cru from Vosne-Romanée, we're still in the almost €100 range here, and that this is not a €100 wine, or at least in my world it isn't. It is because it's Vosne-Romanée, but it isn't because it's just not good enough. There's something missing here. There's missing some energy and I don't want to shit all over this wine. I just want to sort of point out that's probably not my thing. Maybe others appreciate the profile. Maybe it's a little bit more old school. For me, it just doesn't cut it. Definitely the star of these three was that Meursault, a 2004, a 20-year-old Meursault that's kicking ass and taking names. I'm going to start with the Chanterêves. I'm going to get that one out of the way a little bit. This, I think, Aloxe-Corton Premier Cru isn't very Premier Cru, as I mentioned. Value-wise, what I can say is that I didn't pay a lot of money to it, but I don't consider it a good value because I didn't really enjoy it. I wouldn't really want to revisit it. I think at under 50 euros, I'd rather go to their Petit L'Hôpital, which is a very light bottling, but just a pure joy to drink. Could be so that this vintage 2020 has got that severity about it and it hasn't had long enough and it needs some time, but at the same time, I just don't see that. I don't feel any Premier Cru class coming out of it. And for that reason, I would say red light. The Vosne-Romanée, this is a tricky question. I think this was a disappointing performance. I don't think this is a particularly good rendition of this wine. I think we can do better. It lacks anything that you could possibly relate back to a quality Premier Cru from Vosne-Romanée. And these days, if you're going to take the money, deliver the goods. I wish that at this level we could find a little bit more. I don't know, but I think either the vintage 16 was a tricky vintage, so maybe I shouldn't base this producer's profile on that, but at the same time, this is very poor value. I will not buy another bottle of this. I hope somebody offers me a glass of something from this producer who has very, very great terroirs, and they can change my mind because I hope so. I'm on the side of value priced wines, but value delivering, not here. You're not going to find it here. I'm not going to find it here. If you do, leave it in the comments. Hey, I could be wrong. Maybe it was just the bottle. Who knows? And then the wine of this tasting for sure is this Boillot Meursault 2004, the Premier Crus and the Grand Crus. 20 years is nothing, but in a village, it's something. And this wine is, you know what I mean? It's just picking up its second wind and it's coming into its own. I think it's got another 10 years easy ahead of it. For a 2004, which is a weak vintage, maybe a little bit better in white, but still, this is a fabulous, fabulous wine. I paid 49 euros for it. It was a secondary market purchase. And obviously, you know what I'm going to say here. This is a great value. This is an insane value. A wine that's aged to perfection, that's outperforming everything you could expect of it, is a fantastic example of Henri Boillot's craft. And it's less than the new wines that are being released, which you probably should give a couple of years at least anyway in bottle to settle down and get better. And this sucker is sort of singing hallelujah all the way. I think I would rather drink this than many wines that are twice, 3 times that price, 4 times that price. It was that good. This is the real deal. And secondary market is great, but you're taking a risk. So you have to balance the risk with the reward. And the risk is that, this 2004 was poorly stored and that, then you get it and it's oxidized and, you get a crap wine. But at the same time, you threw the dice on 50, 60 euros for properly aged Burgundy. And if it doesn't go your way, which sometimes it doesn't, and it's happened to me many times, then you've lost 60. But when you get them like this, then you've gained so much from an experience perspective, and that's worth a lot more than the price you paid and the money you've lost on some of the bottles along the way. That's my opinion. I don't know. What do you think? What constitutes value for your money in wine for you? I'd like to know your thoughts. If you want to share them, down in the comments. As always, I really appreciate you listening to me drone on, and I hope you'll come back. Until then, stay thirsty.